Since we're here, we should probably talk about button installation, because that's another essential part of your jeans. In fact, you'll probably end up putting a button on before you put rivets on. Basically, the type of button you use for jeans is called a tack button, and it looks like this. You know, it has a little shank on it, and this is the tack portion of it. Basically, when you're looking at these buttons, you can find these are easily found on eBay. Grommet Mart also carries a wide selection of the buttons. You'll be surprised that there's fairly basic designs. You get the one with the little ring in the center and the stars around, and this is probably your most common design for jeans button. eBay, you can find all kinds of really interesting ones where manufacturers have sold off the last of the hardware after they were done running garment through the process, and you can even find some brand name. I've even found some Tommy Hilfiger buttons if that was your thing. The tacks, there's basically two designs. There's one with probably 3 or 4 ridges on the actual post part there. And there's another design which just has one kind of ridge at the top. It's kind of like a little mushroom ridge at the top, and there's only the one ridge. I prefer the tacks that have multiple ridges. I feel like they end up being more secure. When you're attaching your button, because we're not using any special tools here, you really want a flat button. There is a lot of interesting ones with rhinestones or just things that protrude out from the surface of the button, and those things, while you can use them, you can end up smashing them. So if you want the easiest success in putting on a jeans button, I would suggest something flat. So we're going to do the same process here. I've got my nail, and I'm going to just pound it through my denim. And then I will insert my tack from the back side. And this is a little bit, the tacks can be, because the tacks are a little bit thicker and they've got those ridges on them, can be a little bit harder to put through. And what I do is I put it through enough where just the tip of it is sticking through, but it's enough where it's holding it in. You don't have to really stick it all the way through. You could also, if you wanted to, you could also use the hammer and tap it through a little harder. You don't want to try to tap it through. You definitely need to use the nail to get your hole started, though. I believe these are probably aluminum, and they're not really heavy duty enough to be nailing through just on their own. Then you basically take your button, and you'll notice I'm doing this on wood and not on the metal. You could do it on a bench block or a piece of metal if you wanted to, but it's not really necessary. Now, there's a technique to doing the jeans button. You don't have to pound nearly as hard as you have to pound for the rivets. If you do pound too hard, you'll risk damaging the surface of the button, or you'll have a dent coming through. So the technique I use is I'm almost letting the hammer do the work for me. I'm just kind of letting it fall. My job is to aim the head nice and flat, coming straight down on top. And I can tell when it's in there well when I try to twist it. See, it's twisting a little bit, so I'm going to go a little bit more. Just like that. When it's hard to twist that button, that tells me that it's definitely in there. If you don't get the button on all the way, like if it's kind of wiggles around or it twists really easily, or if you look on the other side and you push this up and the tack actually pushes up a little bit, what will happen is, as these jeans get worn and washed, that button will kind of bounce around and knock around in the hole, and the denim itself will start to fray inside that hole, and eventually your jean button will pop off. And I'm sure that's happened to pretty much everybody, where your jean button and the tack holding it has just come right through. It's because it wasn't put on tight enough to begin with. So that's basically, and I've never had to use a washer like with the rivets, where if we're using thin denim, you may use little denim washers. I've never had to do that with the jeans with a button. You could certainly do it, and it wouldn't hurt anything, but I've never had any problems putting buttons on thin denim. It seems like there's plenty of room for that tack to go into the button. I've also never had the tack protrude through. I have pounded too hard and had it dent, had it, push through. And sometimes, you'll get it on crooked, and, all kinds of crazy things can happen. If you do get it on crooked, probably the easiest way is to grab the backside here with some pliers and, work it back and forth and start, what you'll either do is you'll break the head of the tack off, or you'll just start to work it out. Now, I do want to mention, you can find jeans buttons. Well, you can find two types of buttons that look like jeans buttons in your regular fabric store. I think they're made by Dritz. There's one called a dungaree button that looks just like a jeans button, but the tack doesn't have any ridges on it. It almost looks like a regular push tack. Those are not acceptable. Those will pull out in no time. I think those are made for like dungarees, or overalls. So don't get those. The Dritz does have a jeans button that looks just like these jeans buttons. They look exactly the same with the stars and the tack, and everything looks right about it. What isn't right about them is what's inside. Inside this little metal shaft here, on these I believe is some sort of hard rubber, something like that you end up pounding the tack into. The Dritz ones have what looks to me like a hard plastic, and it is incredibly difficult to pound the tack into those successfully without either getting it crooked or breaking it or bending your button. I don't like them at all. I think they're just total junk. I'm sure you can get them to work right, and I'm sure lots of people have, and I probably have got them to work right at some point in my life. I've just found a lot better options. Professional jeans buttons are not made like that. They're really a lot easier to put on. You shouldn't have to pound really hard with the hammer to get your button on. So that is how you attach a jeans button. Thanks for watching.